Quotation from myself, segment 6, quotation number 67. When several different scenarios of the future are offered, one of them, by the sheer law of probabilities, is bound to happen. First of all, because the number of variations is usually limited, and the second, because the majority of them are contradictory. Most of the time it's like either or, either peace or war, either victory or defeat, either prosperity or disaster, etc. It also helps when an outline of the future event is rather sketchy and put into the vague and ambiguous term. The more general these predictions are, the more likely they will be regarded by posterity as fulfilled, no matter what has actually happened. Delphian oracles knew that, and so did the prophets of ancient Israel, and even less illustrious, though much more ubiquitous, fortune-telling gypsies know it today. When thus foretold events occur, the one whose prediction come true, of course some adjustment interpretations are always needed to bridge the gap between intellectual abstraction of the past and physical reality of the present, is declared by admiring prosperity to be the real prophet, the visionary, while those less lucky, whose version of the future did not materialize, are dismissed as false prophets, and not only their name, but even their predictions are forgotten. The contemporaries of both real and false prophets have, of course, no way of even guessing which of them is right, because, as a rule, their prophecy contains no proof why any particular version of the future has to materialize. Therefore, the ones who are remembered and glorified forever have no more claim to foresight than a gambler who has won in a lottery. Besides, it is always the next generation that determines the winners. But by that time, it will be already living in that predicted future and wouldn't need a dead prophet to tell them how it looks. Tomorrow's fool will know more than a seer who had died before. How will the distant future look? There is no answer in the book. The prophecy, one must confess, is nothing but a wild guess. Yet it is difficult for people, both individually and collectively, to admit that the future is essentially unknown and unpredictable, because to admit this means to accept that there is no order in human life, that it is chaotic and in a sense has no purpose or meaning. That's why we're always desperately looking for prophets and visionaries who could serve as the living symbol of elusive order and meaning for all of us. Number 68. What would the ancient Egyptians, who kept their way of life and government comparatively unaltered for more than 3,000 years, have said about our unquenchable thirst for the perpetual and very often instantaneous change? Or Ecclesiastes, who have found that there is nothing new under the sun? What would he have said about the new and improved? Are we, the Western men, such true followers of Heraclitus that we cannot step in the same river twice? And yet we are surprisingly comfortable when things stay the same as they are, and we always live as much in the past as in the future. almost infinite number of memories. At least that's the way one feels sometimes. Countless books describing growing up in the prairies, or in upstate New York, or in some other equally God-forsaken places. The whole industry of nostalgia is the best testimony to it. On the whole, our Western civilization reminds one of a child rushing into a world of new experiences and discoveries, while constantly looking back not to lose the sight of a mother. Number 69. He who remembers the past and projects it onto the future will never be happy. One always shall recognize a Jew by the sadness in his eyes, the memories of things that passed, the fear they will forever last, cast the dark cloud, for his mind cannot leave history behind. Number 70. A dog in the possession of a bone is absolutely sure that everybody wants a bone, and especially his bone, which is quite natural behavior for a dog. Number 71. We live in a world of rising expectation and diminishing resources to satisfy them. These contradictions lead inevitably to the growing discontent of the masses, who are always looking for culprits. Communist rulers of the Eastern Europe and military dictators of the Third World are only the first victims of this discontent. As of now, the people of the world are looking at USA and Western Europe and see two parallel phenomena: political system of democracy and economic prosperity. So they equate one with the other. The argument in the collective psyche of the people of the developing or stagnating country has been so far very simple. Democratic countries prosper economically. Ours are both undemocratic and poor. Therefore, in order to prosper, we have to become democratic as well. It is, however, up to the future, which is never too far nowadays, to prove whether the conclusion of this argument, prosperity is a product of democracy, is the correct one, or it constitutes a fallacy of accidental correlation. At the present moment, the jury is still out. But if the second is true, and the democratic capitalism stops delivering to the ever-increasing expectation, and there are numerous indications that's what is happening already, then, despite the incessant lying chant of the bourgeoisie ideologists and propagandists, the democratic capitalism is not only the best, but the only option now. They and their bosses are setting themselves up for a rude awakening. For the dissatisfied populace of the West would eventually do to their capitalist rulers what the discontented masses of the East have done to their communist counterparts. There is no such thing as finality, either a human affair or ideas. Anything can be discarded, anything could be embraced anew. As a matter of fact, people will often recycle tomorrow what they rejected yesterday. History and life is one and the same, and until life is over, history is not over either. Number 72. People are both addictive and allergic to truth. They are addictive to the truth about others, and allergic to the truth about themselves. Number 73. As can be learned from history, any specific injustice, no matter how long it existed, eventually ends, like, for example, slavery. But the same history also tells us that after this or that particular injustice is removed, it is inevitably replaced by another one, as for instance, slavery has been replaced by serfdom. To paraphrase Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything, the time for destroying an old injustice, and the time for creating a new one. Such a ruthless inevitability almost forces one to start believing in the existence of some universal injustice which, like the Platonic form, is eternal, while a particular manifestation are constantly changing, with one thing being destroyed, while another being born in its place. Number 74. Sooner or later, even the most revolutionary ideology or religion get accepted by those against whom it has been originally directed after being transformed and adopted to their advantage. Number 75. At its best, poetry is a confession of a soul, and at its worst, the incriminating evidence against it. But in both cases, it is its life story. Number 76. Good is proud of being unique. Evil justifies itself by being common. Number 77. Whatever we are talking about, we are always talking about ourselves. Number 78. Metaphor is a bridge between the concrete and abstract, the immediate and transcendent, the trivial and sublime, the material and spiritual. Number 79. Few seek knowledge and understanding in order to share it, to impart, and thus to enable the others to know and understand too. The majority, however, look at knowledge and understanding as the means to gain advantage over those possessing neither, as a superior weapon to defeat them. Like a miser hoarding his wealth, the knowledgeable and informed jealously guard their possession to use it only as a currency of exchange, but never give it away for free. When, forced by circumstances, they have to give up some of their knowledge and expertise, or to explain, however unwillingly, anything to anybody, they often try their best to be as vague and ambiguous as possible in order to mislead and to confuse. All in all, it is hard to say what is greater, the material stinginess of the rich or the intellectual miserliness of the knowledgeable, which is more obnoxious. Number 80. The price of admission into collectivity is the surrender of individuality at the entrance. Number 81. Every human being is endowed with inalienable right of self-determination of one's life up to separation from life itself. Number 82. A mannequin dressed up in different clothes is still the same mannequin.